Last week on Legally Kidnapped.
Good evening. Our top story this week. In Colorado, policy violations were found amid the deaths of 43 children who died from abuse and neglect in the last 5 years after CPS agents failed to complete basic functions such as interviews or follow-ups on child abuse assessments. In Florida, a bill is submitted that would change the way CPS agents handle cases of abuse or neglect prompted by the systematic failures in the case of a 10-year-old adopted child who was murdered last year. In Illinois, a Republican has filed legislation to allow faith-based foster care and adoption agencies to operate without catering to gays. A new study suggests that socioeconomic status is more influential than race when doctors are determining whether or not child abuse has occurred and should be reported. And in New York, the governor wants to keep incarcerated juveniles who are sent to far-off detention facilities closer to home. In Maryland this week, the state suspends foster care placements with an agency that failed to track background checks and other requirements for foster parents. The child protective industry in Ohio is in the process of moving 52 kids after their group homes are being closed due to safety concerns. In Kentucky, the child protective industry is up in arms over the new transparency rules that they say won't protect the identities of CPS rats who call the hotline. And in California, a judge orders juvenile court open to the news media. In Missouri this week, a judge places the child of an illegal immigrant into foster care, stating that living as an undocumented immigrant was putting her son at risk. In Massachusetts, a group is formed to examine the spike in child abuse cases committed against adopted children in that state. According to Pennsylvania lawyers, Facebook is becoming more of a common factor in family court cases these days. And in Nebraska, foster parents want more money. A study by the Annie Casey Foundation finds that children fare better in states with higher taxes. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention claims that child abuse committed in 1 year will cost the country $124 billion over their victims' lifetimes. An Oklahoma foster care improvement task force created by the legislature begins by suggesting that the state adequately fund their recommendations. And a bill is submitted to the Oklahoma state legislature that would ban the sale of food containing aborted human fetuses, leaving some to wonder what foods contain aborted human fetuses. In Tanzania this week, a report is released criticizing the condition of the country's juvenile detention facilities, citing inhumane conditions and failure to prepare the kids to be released back into society. And in Romania, a 23-year-old woman is claiming to be the world's youngest grandmother after she gave birth at age 11 and her now 12-year-old daughter just gave birth herself. In Canada, the foster son of the mayor of Vancouver, British Columbia, is arrested on drug and gun charges. And a 10-year-old girl with autism will continue to remain in the custody of the Canadian child protective industry after she was illegally removed for a single incident where she wandered away. In Australia, there is a new effort to ban spanking after pediatricians come forward claiming that it amounts to child abuse. It is revealed that Australian children are being used as ammunition against warring parents in bitter divorce cases. Australian foster care agencies want more money, and 2 Australian foster parents are telling the child protective industry to take back the foster kids who have been living with them for 6.5 years the minute that they find out that their pay is going to be cut. In England this week, the BBC releases a documentary showing poor support for struggling parents and giving social workers another opportunity to publicly cry about heavy caseloads, low pay, and the criticism that they have been subjected to since the Great Baby P failure back in 2008. The council is fined £140,000 for sending sensitive data regarding children's social services reports to the wrong people, and a British 18-year-old gets 15 months in jail for having sex with a 12-year-old girl who ran away from her foster home, told him that she was 17 while online, then 15 when he met her. British watchdog group Ofsted admits that it got inspections wrong by failing to address some of the most important aspects of the treatment of vulnerable children. British children win the right to maintain proper relationships with their fathers after divorce in the shake-up of the family justice system, which is being criticized by the British family justice czar, who isn't even a woman. And 2 British foster parents in their 50s are being told that they're too old to adopt a baby that they've been caring for. While events are being organized in London for the country's first ever lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender adoption and fostering week in an effort to boost staggering adoption numbers neighbors in the UK. In entertainment news this week, Halle Berry's baby's daddy wins in court and she will not be able to take custody from him. The child protective industry wants little Nala to go to counseling because of her parents continuing their heated custody battle. And in sports, the child protective industry is warning that human trafficking cases increase significantly in cities that host major sporting events such as the Superbowl. In Indiana this week, a 13-year-old boy is facing criminal charges in an escape attempt after stealing his foster parents' SUV and trying to drive home to Cincinnati. A Michigan woman is charged with torturing and abusing 2 foster kids. In California, an adopted son is suspected in the strangling death of an Oakland couple who were mad about the amount of time the kid was spending with the Occupy Oakland crowd. And a former California foster father pleads not guilty to child molestation. A Pennsylvania woman is found guilty of assaulting a CPS agent. In Illinois, a foster parent sits in jail in lieu of a $50 million cash bond after sexually abusing 2 girls in his care since 1996. In Montana, a foster parent gets busted for sodomy, child abuse, and possession of child pornography. And another foster parent from Ohio is charged with sexual molestation of foster children in his care. Adoptive parents in California are upset after the child protective industry failed to protect their identities, and the kid's real mother, who they claim is a psycho, contacted them, and now they're gonna sue for it. A 17-year-old foster kid takes on the system and tries to deal with CPS abuses by getting legislation passed. A California couple is suing the child protective industry over their listing on the Child Abuse Index after cutting locks of their adopted daughter's hair as punishment for lying, and the sheriff of San Francisco is not being allowed to see his son after an alleged domestic violence incident that neither of them admits ever happened. In Florida, a 14-year-old goes missing from her foster home, but police find her. In Illinois, a notorious madam who was convicted of running a brothel with a teenage daughter is getting ready to go to court next month with the help of a client who is a judge to prove that she is fit to be the adoptive mom of 2 little girls. And in Kansas, a grandfather who has no rights is fighting for his grandchildren who are in foster care and were going to be given to a teacher who was facing sexual molestation charges before he got caught. In Massachusetts, FBI agents chainsaw right through the front door of a mother's apartment, forcing her to face down onto the floor for 30 minutes while her 3-year-old daughter screamed in the other room, only to realize that they busted through the wrong door as they were looking for her neighbor. A Michigan father fights for custody of his biological daughter, although he has no rights because the mother was married to another man when she gave birth, and the child is legally considered a product of that marriage, regardless of the fact that both the mother and the stepfather are facing drug charges. In Ohio, a judge okays a family lawsuit against the child protective industry for failing to protect the kid who died. And finally, tonight, the real mother of a 6-month-old who died back in 2009 at the hands of a mean old foster mother is speaking out after the child protective industry did nothing, even when she raised flags about bruises that he had suffered while in the foster care system. For these stories and all the latest dirt on the child protective industry, visit www.legallykidnapped.com. And until next week, this is Baby LK, over and out.